Hi everyone, this is Dragon GY and welcome back to Operator Hindsight. The feedback from the last series has been overwhelmingly positive for the series going forward, and I honestly can't thank you all enough for the support. So, with a few adjustments to the presentation and format, let's get into this episode. For this one, we'll get into Eyjafjalla the Hvít Aska. Since we are clearly talking about the alter version here, let's just call her Eyja for short. She's a limited 6-star Wandering Magic. Trait: restores the HP of allied units and recovers elemental damage by 50% of attack. Can recover elemental damage of unhurt allied units. For this video, sometimes I will abbreviate elemental with E, so E damage and E healing, etc. When we compare Wandering Magic to the other magic archetypes, other than the more special incantation magics, we can clearly see that they have a squishier build. So lower HP, low defense, also the lowest attack stats if you rule out the multi-target magics who can heal 3 by default. This is mostly because Wandering Magics are effectively healing 2 HP bars at the same time. So to compensate, they have the lowest DP and an overall more user-friendly healing range. It is similar to therapists, so for therapists, patients come to you, so they have the closer 2 tiles to the side, and for Wandering Magics, they go to the patients, right? So they have the 2 tiles in the distance. Keep in mind though, they don't heal less for units further away like therapists do. Now let's briefly talk about the healing priority for Wandering Magics. When healing, they always prioritize units with the lowest HP percentage, like all other magics. Elemental HP is the next in line, so if you look at the situations on the right, the first target they heal would be W because she has the lowest on HP. Ines will be the next priority despite her having the lowest on EHP. Therefore, most of the Wandering Magics would have the effect of prioritize healing targets with lowest EHP somewhere in their kit, other than Eyjafjalla, which is something we will talk about in just a moment. So before we get into her kit, let's briefly reveal E damage from enemies. The max EHP depicted by the ring below the normal HP bar is always 1000. Each type of elemental damage has its own EHP bar, but only the ring for the most damaged one will be displayed. And when Wandering Magics are healing, they are actually healing all EHP bars at the same time, which is neat, but not very common in the game as of now. Eyja's Talent 1, her core talent. Normal healing applies a buff effect on the target that recovers HP and elemental damage equal to 10% of the healing amount per second, lasting 6 seconds and stacks up to 3 times. So a few notes in here. First, to avoid ambiguity, the trait for Wandering Magics does apply to this talent. So when it says 10% of healing amount, it means 10% of attack for HP recovery and 5% of attack for EHP recovery. Second, the stacks actually used a share timer, so every time her target receives healing from Eyja, the duration for all stacks will be renewed, meaning as long as you are healing the same target, full stack is always guaranteed. This lingering healing effect uses the attack for Eyja at the moment of applying the current stack, so it will update if the attack stats changes on the next heal. This talent makes her benefit from attack buffs a lot more than other magics. This talent also has synergy with her skills, so her skill 1 allows her to maintain full stack on 2 allies, and her skill 3 allows her to quickly apply full stack to multiple targets across the map with the 5 burst healing pattern, where each burst can apply 1 stack of talent. While this talent may seem very just standard at the first glance, if you do the calculation, you'll realize that this is actually a massive stats boost to Eyja's healing potential. We talked about Wandering Magics having the lowest attack. You may have experienced that using the lower rarity members, but this talent has completely eliminated that weakness from Eyja for being a Wandering Magic. When we look at the auto attack healing per second, Eyja with her base healing only has 170. This talent alone adds 147 on top of that, almost doubling it into 317, making her without module highly competitive with all the usual magic picks who has gotten their modules. That is how powerful she is as a limited medic. One more plus for the talent is that the lingering healing can better ease out the pressure when she's switching between multiple targets. Talent 2, allies within attack range obtain max HP plus 6% or 8% and take 12% less elemental damage. This talent is effective for any friendly units, so that includes enmity units and summons. This is a pretty good talent to increase the elemental durability of friendly units, and it's increased to 5 times and expand to full map with skill 3. Although Eya has yet to get a module, but if this talent gets improved by a future module, it is possible that the E damage reduction will get a higher stat, which will get further multiplied by skill 3, making her effectiveness against E damage even stronger. Now let's take a look at her skills. So for skills again, we have the TLDR conclusion here, which is skill 1 mastery 3 over skill 3 mastery 3 over skill 2 mastery 3. Let's take a look at skill 1. Attack increased by 40%, heals 2 targets, recovers E damage equal to 8% of attack for allies within range. 0/60 skill with unlimited duration. The passive E healing is effective on enmity and summons as well. Now everyone loves AFK skills, and this is an AFK skill with decent HPS, arguably the best we have now. As a comparison, the other favorite AFK healing skill, Lumen skill 3, has a charge time of 50 seconds and a healing per second of 437, and Eya has a charge time of 60 seconds but a higher HPS at 444 while being able to heal 2 targets. If you further pair it with Skadi Alter skill 2, which is another popular AFK skill, the HPS stats gets to 632, which is effectively a permanent Talopsis skill 2 that heals 2. Okay, now let's talk about the passive E healing with the skill. 55 passive E damage regen is sufficient, or in most cases an overkill against environmental E damage, so this is a very good measure to keep enmity and summons safe from just the environmental E damage. Skill 2 immediately heals all ally units within range and creates a barrier that only absorbs elemental damage lasting 20 seconds. The barrier has an EHP equal to 900% of attack. This is a 0/20 instant skill with manual trigger. The barrier enjoys the effect of E damage reduction from talent 2, and it's shared by all units within its range. So as you can see, it's a 20-second cooldown skill with a barrier lasting for exactly 20 seconds. In reality though, it still has a 1-second cooldown due to the animations. Instant skill means that the SP regen starts immediately after casting, like Warframe skill 2. Increasing SP regen speed can easily make the barrier last forever as long as it does not break. Also, since the barrier HP is dependent on Eya's attack on cast with a 900% scale, this is the most buff-worthy healing skill ever made. For example, the barrier has 4,428 EHP with just Eya herself, but will be boosted to 7,047 with Skadi Alter skill 2, which is 59% more. In integrated strategy, relics related to SP regen and attack increase are very good for this skill. And finally, this is the best method to prevent big E damage for enmity and summons. There are obvious cons to this skill though. Against AoE E damage like the fireballs, the Seaborn Reapers, the explosive Seaborns, the barriers get shredded extremely fast because it takes E damage for everyone in range at the same time, so it is heavily countered by AoE E damage. Also, if you think about it, when the shield does not break, the E healing part of Eya's own healing kinda just goes to waste. And finally, if you look at the calculations, skill 2 barrier health is actually less than the amount skill 1 can heal over the same 20 seconds. That is, if fallout would not happen though, as skill 2 does protect spiky damage better with the high barrier health. Skill 3, attack range becomes global and heals in bursts of 5 with 60% of attack for HP and EHP recovery, prioritizing healing different targets, and the effect of talent 2 increases to 5 times. This is a 40/60 50-second skill. Again, to avoid ambiguity, it's actually 60% of attack as HP recovery and 30% of attack as EHP recovery due to trait. Now, during this skill, everyone on the map will receive a 30% max HP increase, 40 at potential 5, and a stunning amount of 60% E damage reduction. Now, let's dive into the healing pattern for skill 3. The skill will prioritize healing different units in the same 5 burst, so that becomes the number one thing even before the max HP percentage. But after all viable targets has been healed before the same 5 burst ends, so in other words, less than 5 targets with damaged HP or EHP. The healing logic will then return to normal and prioritize healing the units with least HP percentage for the remaining bursts in the same attack. Let's again look at the demonstrations below. Same scenario, W will receive the first burst of healing which left her as the target with least HP percentage still. But for skill 3, it will then go on and heal Innis and then hold her there for the second and third bursts. After that, all viable targets has been healed in the same attack with 2 bursts left, and the healing logic will dispense the 4th and 5th bursts to W yet again. Now, the problem originated from this is that it can get frustrating when the most damaged and the most elementally damaged are not the same operator, since according to the healing pattern, the most damaged operator will take the majority of the healing bursts, while the most elementally damaged one can only get 1 burst per attack. Therefore, the skill has a surprisingly anti-synergy with operators losing HP percentage of their max HP, for example, Geeks, Fiametta, and Surtur in skill 3. Because 1, they will absorb quite a lot of the healing bursts, especially Surtur in skill 3, but also they lose more HP per second due to skill increasing their max HP, increasing the HPS burden from all of the medics. Now, talk about the pros to this skill. Like we said, each burst of healing will add 1 stack of talent 1 to its target, which is probably the reason why they make it prioritize different targets. That way it can quickly apply full stack of talent 1 to everyone on the floor, which is a very strong full map support. It also combos with friendly units that benefits from max HP increase, for example any operators that regen HP based on a certain percentage of their max HP, or skills like Penance skill 3. And because the barrier acquired will not scale back down when a skill ends, it is a considerable benefit for Penance. Overall, this skill is a long duration, strong healing support that protects friendlies from being one-hit KO'd or elemental fallout. If you compare similar skills that protect operators from a certain type of damage, you can notice the big difference in SP requirement, despite the lower startup time and the slightly shorter duration. Now we've looked at all the skills, let's do a quick summary of where they're best for. Skill 1, in my opinion, number 1 AFK skill in the past year of Archetypes. Decent HPS, best for general use. It also protects enmity units from environmental E damage. They are pretty safe if there isn't much excessive E damage on top of that. The skill does need a 60-second warm-up time though, and from my experience, even in tougher situations like H12-4, high difficulty IS, skill 1 is still the best pick due to its overall healing capacity after its warm-up, so definitely the best skill for AR Alter. Skill 2, best with attack or SP recovery buffs, good at protecting against single target E damage, but the advantage is most found when it's against an enmity unit. This skill is heavily countered by AoE E damage though, so be sure not to pick in those situations. Skill 3 is currently the only full map healing choice. You can pick it to support operators playing by their own, and it's best for countering big E damage spikes on your lane holders by drastically reducing the E damage they take. Be aware though that when there are more than 3 targets constantly taking damage at the same time, the healing will become very scattered and potentially taking away the E healing from the unit that needs it the most. Okay, so for Hindsight part, For good combos, well, usually medics don't need a lot of synergy, but Eya does perform notably even better with some of them. So again, Scotty Alter for the double AFK set and attack bonus, and Thlopsis to potentially help with healing while speeding up her skills. And after Eya's release, she quickly took up the place of AFK healer in daily runs. For daily content, she can replace basically any medic in most situations, even without the existence of E damage, given the strong HPS that she's got. For integrated strategy, she is the countermeasure to all the E damage in IS3 in lower difficulties. You no longer need to worry about wandering medics not having enough actual heals. For Surgeon Wave 15, some spiky damage is so high that even Eya could not prevent a fallout from happening, but she could still be able to provide a lot of room for safety to play around. Even in the upcoming IS4, she is still a popular medic pick due to her range and HPS, despite less prevalent elemental damage. There's also a Stultifera Nevis themed stationary security service map coming up. For those of you that are interested, she's a lifesaver in that one. Also, in the upcoming Design of Strife game mode, which is supposedly a hardcore game mode, she also has a record for being in one of the low ops count rosters, with skill 1, the AFK skill. And finally, let's take a look at the HPS comparison between some of the more notable healing skills. This is strictly between medics. Although HPS cannot fully represent what the skills are capable of, this is a pretty good visualization of how far Eyjafjalla is able to get as a wandering medic in the medic roster. Okay, back at our pull recommendation for Eya. Eyjafjalla, the Hvít Aska, is a 6-star wandering medic with all-rounded elemental damage countermeasures, while having healing capability that is close or even above other standard medics. You can't say she eliminated elemental damage, but she definitely deals with it exceptionally good. I'm giving her a daily rating of 8 out of 10 because she's a strong healing option and even stronger when E damage is involved. I can go on and say that she takes care of them with no problem in a daily context. She's the only one who can protect enmity from E damage and do full map healing support that allows anyone to hella drop safely. Once you get her, you likely won't need skills like Shining Skill 2 and Nightingale's Skill 2 anymore on the AFK department, and she alone can be sufficient in, I'd say, 80% of daily content in terms of healing. On the flip side though, and the only minus point that I'm gonna mention here, is that if you have some good healing skills built, have 1 or 2 wandering medics built, I'm talking about the 4 stars or the 5 stars, it is definitely true that you can carry on using them. Eya is a pure support unit after all, and if you are a new player still struggling to get your reliable damage dealers, she's definitely not your priority here. I have her at 6 for advanced content. For 1, she does make it much easier for levels with high E damage, for example the infamous H12-4 we had a few months ago. Even though she can't completely prevent fallouts from happening, she does make it easier for everyone to survive with decent HPS and EHPS. That said, she still isn't at the level of Nightingale to arts damage for countering E damage. But this is mostly a problem of EHP being capped at 1000 though. But yeah, against big spikes and extremely fast build-ups, she still falls a bit short unfortunately. Also, she does have a relatively long startup time, by today's standards, to all her skills. We are talking about 60 seconds for skill 1 and 20 for skill 2 and 3. This will be magnified when there are SP related debuffs like the CC tags. This is the recommendation for operators coming in the next 6 months. To answer some of your questions, first, I do give limited operators a slightly higher priority due to the nature of limited. But I do want to point out that this limited banner we're looking at, featuring Eya Alter and Swire Alter, is not a priority for players looking for damage dealers or standard lane holders. If you want a ranged DPS, I would recommend saving for the upcoming Typhon banner. For melee unit, maybe you can plan towards Deegan Brescia, although she would be 5 months away, but I do think she is a top unit for CN in 2023. Below are my tick previews for these upcoming operators. Swire Altar will be in a separate video that hopefully will come before the banner ends. Again, if you like this video, please drop a like, they take a ton of time to write up and make. I wish you all have a great time with the 4th anniversary for Global, and I will see you in the upcoming Swire Altar video. Bye bye.